The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. I have hats, I have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, water bottles, notebooks, you name it, I've got it. The description and the link for that will be in the description of this episode. Also, right now, if you use the promo code WELCOME, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That's the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link, Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans, as it is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is your special guest host, Fitty, and today I have a great guest, one of the last graduates of Notre Dame College, former All-American wrestler for them. But before we get into that and this great guest, make sure we peep all the sponsors in the pre-roll and the post-roll. These are all small business owners who are our sponsors, so please make sure you shop small and support them. Also, we have two brand new sponsors, and they're also former sponsors of the show, and that's Sweet Hand Sports and Buddy's Beard Care. Sweet Hand Sports is brought to you by Matt Landowski, Bethany College graduate, one of my former college teammates, one of the toughest football players that I ever played against or with and against in practice. He has everything from batting gloves for people to use for softball, baseball, little league, whatever it may be. And then also came out with golf glove. So definitely check that out if you're a golfer. Buddy's Beard Care is a small business that caters to men with beards. Now, I don't use it, but Mike uses it, and he claims that his beard has never grew faster and never been softer. Buddy is a small business owner who's also a former guest of the show. Make sure you check out these great sponsors. With that being said, we have a great guest today. He is also a former student ambassador at Notre Dame College. He's done a lot of great things. He's a city of Cleveland kid originally. So Leron Parks is joining the show. Leron, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Leron, I have known you for going on a little over 3 years now, but not all of our listeners know you. So we know that you grew up in Euclid, Ohio. For people that don't know, Euclid is a suburb of Cleveland, pretty much the last suburb that go before you can go into Cleveland itself. So tell everybody, what was it like growing up in Euclid? What did you do? Did you go to Euclid High School? A lot of famous athletes went to Euclid High School. So kind of tell us about your high school experience, elementary experience, and just growing up in the city of Euclid.
Growing up in Euclid was pretty fun, I would say. I loved it. I actually started in Cleveland Heights for school at elementary and everything, and I moved around a lot. So I went to Oxford in elementary. Elementary's elementary. I don't remember too much about it.
Right.
But once I got to middle school is once I moved to Euclid, and I actually loved it there. Met a lot of my friends now down in Euclid. And that's where I got introduced to sports for the most part. I didn't start wrestling until 10th grade of high school and took it from there.
So that's interesting because we just had on, Coach Jordan, the former head coach at Notre Dame College, your former head coach there, and I believe for a short period of time, maybe your teammate.
He was the GA. He graduated the year before I came in.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Coach Jordan was talking to Mike, and he said he didn't get into wrestling until his freshman year. He grew up as a baseball player. So you're now the second guest that didn't get into wrestling until a little bit later in their life. Now, wrestling, for everybody that knows, is a sport. Normally, people start at like 3 or 4 years old. So, for you not starting to your sophomore year, what was that like trial by fire? Like you're not doing as a freshman going into your sophomore year at a very big high school, and what was it like going up against, guys that have wrestled for, 10 or 11 years at that point?
Luckily, I'm a natural athlete, so I had a pretty good start. I would say the toss-up matches where I typically got, but when I went against like the top people in the state and stuff, it was bad. That's where the wrestling like really showed. Like, there's levels to wrestling. I would say like my freshman year, it wasn't horrible. I think I was like 20-12, something like that. I lost in the blood rounds at districts, so at least I qualified for a first year. It's pretty fun. I loved it. The hardest part to me, especially my first year, was cutting weight. So I just didn't understand it at all. I walk home and get back home. My mom's offering me chicken and pizza all the time, and I got to make weight on Friday. But I'm not going to miss a meal. So I don't know. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute for people that don't realize about wrestling and making weight. It's a lot like the other combat sports, right? It's like boxing, it's like
Yeah.
MMA. But can you kind of talk about what weights you wrestled at over the years and what it's actually like leading up to those weigh and like what you have to do to actually cut weight? Can you kind of talk about that?
So in high school, I wrestled 220. Each week, I would start the week around like start of the season, I would be about 245, 250, cutting down to 220. So my first like 3 cuts of the season were pretty rough. A lot of milk and magnesia, and a lot of running and sauna suits and extra workouts and stuff like that. Towards the end, I was still losing about 13 a week, I would say. But it just gets cutting weight eventually just gets part of the routine. And it's just like you just fall in love with it because it makes you feel like a better competitor. Like you're more locked in because you know about the work you did leading up to the tournament or the matches and stuff like that. College, luckily, I became a heavyweight and I haven't cut weight in a couple years. So just stay in shape, stay maintaining about 265. That's about it.
Sure. So it's funny. I am a big boxing fan, and I know it's a little bit different than wrestling, but I know typically at weigh-ins when boxers get weighed, it's usually 24 hours before, 48 hours before, depending on the contract. Now, let's say you and I have a boxing match, and we're going to box down to 160. Okay. Now you come in at 159. I come in at 160 exactly. But those boxers will basically gorge themselves in food after the weigh-in. A lot of them will eat a lot of fruit, especially oranges, because it's so hydrating. Watermelon. They'll eat a lot of soup broth, steak, and their weight will balloon like 7, 8, 9 pounds by the fight. Is that
Yeah.
something that happens in wrestling too? I'm not really familiar with that, or is that just more of a boxing thing?
Definitely more boxing, MMA. Wrestlers, we typically have a college. We have a 2 hour turnover. I want to say in high school it's like an hour and a half. So you weigh in. Say a tournament starts at 9 a.m. We'll go weigh in about 7, and you got from 7 to really 8 to hydrate, eat everything like that, and then by 9 we're wrestling. 8 we're warming up. But I would say so to start the day, say if I was 220, but by the end of the tournament and everything, especially I hated two day tournaments because we had to remake weight and they only gave us 1 pound.
Mm.
But it was into some tournaments where I would be leaving at 228 after weighing in at 220 in the morning, and then I have to recut the whole night and probably sleep 2 hours and right back on a bus to go to the tournament again. So I'm saying you see it definitely, but just not as depending on the tournament. If it's only a 1 day tournament, yeah, a lot of people are getting really heavy. But if it's a 2 day, that's where you catch like the people that are around weight still, or you can run into those guys that's really good at cutting weight, so they're heavy and then they just know how to cut it the next day.
I gotcha. Interesting on that. So, besides when you were growing up, and you went to Euclid High School, besides wrestling, did you do any other sports? Track,
Oh,
football, baseball, anything else?
so I played my freshman year of high school. I played football and baseball, and I played basketball too. And then sophomore year and junior year, I only wrestled. And then senior year, I played football, I wrestled, and then I was going to play baseball, but it was COVID, of course. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There was no sports going on in that
Yeah.
time. So Euclid High School has the great Robert Smith. for people that don't know, played for the Minnesota Vikings. Was a very very awesome running back during the '90s for them. So can you kind of talk about though, like what your experience was like playing football at such a high level though at Euclid with such a historic football program and a packed crowd on Friday nights? What was that atmosphere like?
Playing football was great. I loved it. It's no better team atmosphere than like playing with your guys that you guys put in the work and everything with and stuff like that. Our coach was Jeff Roski. He's down at VASJ now. He's really tough on us. He always taught us GFGF, God Family Grades football. Being there was great. We had a great year. We ended up losing to St. Ed's in the playoffs. First half was amazing. It was only like a 3-point game, and then second half it was terrible. But but playing at that level and seeing like those big guys, like I played against guys that are in the NFL right now, and it's kind of crazy. I actually loved it. Miss it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I think people realize like how exciting Friday night football is, even for small schools. But when you get the massive, massive level high schools, like in the state of Ohio or Pennsylvania or whatever,
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of people there, and alumni who played major Division I football and in the NFL and things like that. So it's really cool that you were a part of a historic program like that.
yeah,
So, COVID hits, right? You can't play baseball. You finish up, it's 2020, and then you decide to go to college and you come to Notre Dame College. A
yes,
year before I get there, and Notre Dame College sadly has now closed. But you were there for your duration of 4 years, and I was there for three. So you choose Notre Dame, which is in South Euclid, right down the road from Euclid High School.
yeah.
What made you choose NDC? And what was that recruiting process like for you, really going through COVID, and not being able to see any schools?
So recruiting was okay. I started most of the recruiting at the end of my junior year, so
Okay.
that's when I started getting looked at the most. So I did a couple football, a couple wrestling visits. And then after that, so I actually had no intentions of going to Notre Dame at all. I randomly get like a DM and like towards the end of my senior year, and they just asked me to check it out. It was only 15 minutes up the road, so I was like, why not? And then I actually, that's the first time I met Jordan. I met him. So the match I went to in my recruiting visit day was his senior night. So that duel was electric. It was packed. They had 6 pins. They only lost one match. I want to say it was like 40 something to 3. It was nice. I love the atmosphere. Smaller school. I wouldn't succeed in a big school. I know that's not me. I don't pay attention enough in the classroom, I would say. I get distracted. I loved it. Everyone there was nice, welcoming and stuff like that. But I actually still wanted to go to Gannon, but due to COVID, I ended up staying closer at home, and I don't regret it at all. I love it.
Awesome. So it's actually funny too, because Coach Jordan's show, he said that his senior year, six of those guys all qualified for nationals in
Yeah,
South Dakota. And you know, it gets shut down 24 hours before they can wrestle, and they just can't
yeah,
they can't wrestle. And I think from hearing that conversation and things from the past of the conversations while I worked there, that could have been another national championship
yeah,
potentially in NDC's books. And for people that
yeah,
don't know, NDC was probably one of the most historic, if not most historic, Division II wrestling program with multiple, tens of multiple national champions in
yeah,
individual wrestling, multiple team and dual national championships. I believe five
yeah,
in like a 12-year span before they
yeah,
closed. And had the historic one of only three undefeated four-time national champion wrestlers in Joey Davis. So Leron, with that being said, what was it like then being at NDC, a part of such a historic wrestling program?
Being at NDC gave me a like wake up call or woke. Oh, my bad. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But I've never been in a room like that with like wrestlers that were at that level. Especially my first year, we had some returning All Americans coming back and stuff like that. And I went from a little room in Euclid where it was me, my friend Freddie, his dad, and my coach, and we would just wrestle with each other all the time. So I go to a place where I got 6 other guys that want to beat my head up because it's one starting spot, and then I'm the freshman out of everybody, so I always gotta make sure I do everything right and stuff like that. I actually loved it. That first year made me realize the levels, like the main levels to wrestling. It made me want to get better and realize that I just didn't want to be a backup my whole college career and stuff like that. So being there and then always being in the practice room, and every time you look up, like you said, there's multiple national champions on the wall. It's 5 team time, 5 team, shoot, national.
Five-time
Yeah,
team national
5 times.
championship.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
It's
I
a
don't know
tongue
why I
twister,
thought.
man.
Yeah,
Tongue
yeah.
twister there.
So every time we looked at that, we go to the back lounge. We got an All-American board. With it was 88. Well, it's 87 names on there, but I would have been the 88th All-American. But so I don't know. Being in that room always just motivated you and wanted you. It made you want to be better because you want to be a part of that legacy. So I loved it there. I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Well, absolutely. So for people that don't know you, you went from 220 and then you wrestled in heavyweight, 265, 270, and you're a big dude, right? I've known you for a long time. You're a big dude. What was that like though, coming in that big at, 18 years old, but then seeing like the difference of what your size was at 18 compared to like a heavyweight that was 22 or 23 years old? Was that pretty eye opening too, especially
Yeah,
at that high, heavyweight wrestler level?
yeah, it's a big difference. So, like, right after, so my state tournament actually got canceled the same day Jordan's national tournament did. So I was about 219, making weight, getting ready to make weight the next day. And I kid you, by April 1st, I was already up to 250. And then, so, but like, I came, like you said, I came in about 265, 270, but my 265 at 18 years old was still baby fat. Looked nothing like a grown man at 265 with all muscle and everything. And just like, you don't really notice how much like a body develops until you wrestle older people or do stuff with older people, and you realize like there's levels to all types of strength, endurance, everything, because the body's just so much more mature and everything like that. And then in college, you run into kids that are 285, but they're 285s all muscle versus in high school, you see a 285 kid, he's all sloppy and everything like that.
Right,
So
right.
it's just such a different, higher level and everything. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's funny, we've had these conversations, and like when you see these wrestlers, and the 285 guys, but you get down to that 220, those guys in 190, in the 170, those guys are shredded upon shredded
Shredded.
with muscle
Yeah.
upon muscle. I mean, like bulging
Yeah,
traps and
it was a guy we seen at
forearms and
nationals.
like
We
crazy.
we seen at nationals. He was running up the bleachers with his shirt off, and his back was literally rippling with his muscles. And we were like, "Wow!" Like it's crazy how like shredded some people are.
Yeah, it's just, and they're like flexibility at those sizes. It's
Yeah,
just, it's crazy for people that have never really watched like high school, high level high school wrestling, college wrestling. You can find Joey Davis's clips on YouTube, NDC alumni. Look up like the Sanderson brothers, Cal Sanderson and his brother. Look up uh, people think of him from the WWE or WWF, but Kurt Angle,
yeah,
look up those guys like as wrestlers. Those guys were flexible and huge, and they're bending in all types of crazy directions. It's very eye opening about how athletic wrestlers are, and it's funny too because you played football and you did wrestling. I had a former when I was in college, a former high school coach that was very successful came and talked to us in an intro to coaching class. And he said, if you want to build a great football team, he goes, it ain't just about playing football. He goes, you need to have all your big guys and your smaller guys, and especially your bigger guys and your smaller guys, wrestle to make them physically tough for hand to hand combat and also to stay light on their feet in the secondary. And then you make everybody run track no matter
yeah.
what weight they are, because it increases all their speed and their quick twitch muscles. So it's funny you say that though, but the guys you wrestled against, or maybe even your teammates, did they come from pretty athletic backgrounds, or were they pretty much wrestlers the whole time?
I It's a mixture, I would say. Some like, especially in college, you got some people where their life's wrestling in and out, and some you got some where we wrestled as our part time and we just happen to be somewhat decent at it. And then, but you're just athlete. You played all different type of sports. It's always fun, especially like when everybody pulls up their high school highlights of like them doing other sports other than wrestling and stuff like that. And you're like, dang, this dude used to be that guy, and it's like
Yeah.
pretty cool and stuff like that. So it's a mixture of everything, and I think it's pretty cool. Hmm, yeah,
Very cool on that. So your time at NDC was not just being a student. You also were a student ambassador when
yeah.
I was working in the admissions office and stuff, and you did that for your time there. So what was that like? Being a student ambassador. Giving tours and meeting with people and these prospective students and families. Because I know what it was like as
Yeah.
an employee, but what was it like as a student? For you connecting with all these people and working all
Yeah.
these events. What are your thoughts now being done with it?
As a student, I loved it. I started off college as a heavy introvert. That job actually helped me become like an extrovert, and like it helped me feel more connected to the college because I knew almost everyone that was coming in the following year, and feeling like more involved just helps you love where you're at and what you're doing and stuff like that. That experience is eye opening. You meet so many new people from different backgrounds that you would never like even talk to if you just seen them on the street or anything like that. So it's definitely cool from that aspect. You learn so many new skills and stuff with the computers, booking tours. You learn how to talk to people because you learn like different ways to talk to people because you're around so many other people. So you learn to see how people react to certain things and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I always appreciate everything you did, Leron. You were you
Thank you.
were a rock star, with us there, and you just did a great job. More importantly, though, besides being a student ambassador, besides being an athlete, you were a student.
Yes.
So, can you talk about what I know what your major was, but what your major was? Why you picked that, and then what was that like being a student? And balancing being a student with an athlete with a worker on campus.
Okay, so I started off as a nursing major. I eventually switched to healthcare administration and finance, which was more my lane. I like business, I like numbers and stuff like that, but I still also like the thought of helping people and everything. The balancing, it was pretty tough to begin with. If that's a word for it, it was pretty rough. But eventually, like once I got on my routine, you start meeting new faculty and teachers and everything like that. It became way easier to balance once you have your schedule with your workouts, your classes, your practices, when you're going to work and everything like that. Once you get your routine and learn how to balance, it's overall very easy. I would say it actually helped me with school, honestly, because if I knew if I wasn't on schedule, I'll be lacking somewhere else.
Yeah, no, for sure. So people may not know kind of what that like healthcare administration, degree may be because it was pretty unique,
Yeah.
to us in that realm. So can you kind of talk about maybe just some of the classes you took and just a little bit more about the academic background so people may be interested in just knowing about that major, may want to do it. Can you just kind of talk
Yep.
about what it involved?
It kind of involved like I would say it can be a front desk rep, it can be people doing paperwork, stuff like that. It really focuses on one of my favorite topics were like disaster planning and management, making sure everything's right when it comes to that type of stuff. Learning how to work at like a long term care facility and learning how to run it, being an administrator and things of that sort. I love it. I actually did a couple internships. I internshiped at the clinic, and then I worked at a place this summer. Which I would say I like the clinic more than long term care facilities, but so yeah.
So what did you intern doing exactly at the Cleveland Clinic?
I actually just looked over finances there. It was pretty cool. We actually did some meetings where it would determine like different surgeries and stuff for patients and stuff like that. So it was cool working with like different insurance companies and everything.
Very cool. So, kind of going off of that too, for people that don't know, when students enrolled in the fall of 2020 in the middle of COVID and they were an athlete, no matter what level, FCS, FBS, Division One, Two, Three, doesn't matter. Everybody got a COVID extra year of eligibility. So you have your 4 years at NDC. You graduate in May. Ultimately, the school closes, but we're going to go back to that. You graduate, but you finish with your bachelor's degree, and now you're actually going on for your master's degree, correct?
Yes, I started
So,
classes on Sunday actually.
okay,
So, so yeah,
so,
I'm taking master classes right now.
so, what program are you going into, and where are you going, and will you be wrestling?
Yes, I'll be wrestling. I'm doing an MBA program with a concentration in finance, and I'll be at St. Cloud State out of Minnesota.
Okay, so is that a Division 1, 2, or 3 school?
Division 2 school.
Okay, so kind of going back here, so a lot of students, when people talked about like in sports, the transfer portal and people going into the portal and things like that, it was really, really ballooned and bred from that COVID year. Now,
Yeah.
this like being the last fall of truly the COVID year, we're kind of balanced back out here. But with graduating and having this 1 year left in these programs, what was it that you were looking for when you were going on for this master's degree? Was it so much wrestling? Was it an MBA? Was it just the time frame of school? What kind of drove you in that way?
Definitely school first, because you get to the point to where wrestling, I only got one more guaranteed year. This last season coming up, that's the way I look at it. Is one last guarantee. I would say school, and then also school. Like how long I'll be in school. So I decided to do a accelerated MBA. So since I have 1 year wrestling, I was like, why not just finish school in a year? Because I know as long as I'm wrestling, I'll be paying attention to school. Because I got to be eligible. So that's the kind of way I looked at it. Because I can always switch to I can start accelerated, and right when season ends, I can switch to just a normal pace. So it's up to me and how I feel, but my biggest thing was I wanted to complete my MBA by the time I was done, but I also didn't want to be miserable, so wanted to go to a better school, wrestling wise, and it's actually a bigger campus, so it'd be pretty cool. I think it has around 12,000 people,
Okay.
so it's a big upgrade. I'm going from seeing about 800, I would say, to 12,000, so pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely different. So, how
Yeah.
fast does the accelerated program go for you?
It's a year long. It's two. I told him I wanted to start off slow. So this first, last summer term, I'm taking one class, and then it'll be two classes every 7 weeks.
Okay,
So
so it
yeah,
goes like that. Okay, so yeah, I know sometimes programs are like that, or they're the full 15-week
yeah,
courses. So that's really cool. So are you gonna be wrestling at heavyweight then, or are you gonna cut some
yeah.
weight and go
Heavyweight.
back down? Heavyweight. Okay,
I don't think
okay,
I'll ever see under 220 again. If you want me to be honest.
gotcha. No, they haven't had. Do they have any other heavyweight wrestlers on their team?
Yes, I want to say there's six, including me. It's a
Okay.
huge team. I think the roster size is about 60, 65.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is very, very
Yeah,
big.
we
So
have six returning All Americans. I want to say eight returning qualifiers, so it'll be nice.
yeah, for sure. A good mix of like young and old and experience
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything in there. So I want to kind of circle back to this. So, we've had some people on NDC from NDC on since the closure was announced. Closure was announced at the end of February. For you as a student, right? You were in your last semester and you were getting ready to, finish up and graduate. But can you kind of talk us through like the emotions of you as a student with that, someone who is local to the community and what was that like? Because I know what it was like as an employee, but
yeah.
what was it like as a student kind of going through that?
It definitely hurt. I would say because I wanted to take my MBA at Notre Dame, so I was kind of already planning on being right back, and then that happens, and then it also happened the week of regionals, so it was kind of depressing me for wrestling too. So it's sad. I love Notre Dame. I loved it way more than I ever would have thought. Because it's funny because it went from being like not even an option until COVID, and then I was like, I'll try it out. Maybe I'll like it, and then I end up loving it the way I do, and then it's closed now, and I still go back once a week and go look at the campus. So
Is it different going back and not seeing anybody there and just
yeah,
being
because
closed?
I'm used to being there during the summertime. We're still working in the office and everything like that. So I actually sometimes run into people that also went to Notre Dame in the parking lot, and we talk for a little while and stuff like that. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I know it was quite emotional when it was announced and stuff, and the school really did try to help the students. I think a lot with the
Yeah,
transfer
definitely.
the transfer criteria
The
they came
teach
up
outs
with
and
and
everything. Yeah.
doubts and the transfer fair and all that. So, were you looking at any of those schools, or was it really just like St. Cloud, or was the schools outside of that bunch?
I looked at a decent amount of schools. It was schools mainly outside. I would say the two teach out schools were Cleveland State and Lake Erie. I
Hmm.
looked at Ashland a little bit, but mainly my top schools were Lake Erie, St. Cloud, University of Central Oklahoma, and McKendree. I really want if I would have got into McKendree, I would have probably been at McKendree. So
Gotcha, Gotcha. So what was it like, being that last graduating class, like being on that, in that auditorium, getting that diploma, like knowing that this was no longer here? Was it like a surreal feeling?
Yeah, definitely. It didn't hit me until after, though. Be honest, I didn't think about it in the moment. It was just we're with all our people that we've seen throughout college and everything. Everybody's all happy, and then say probably a week or two later, it hit me like, wow, it won't be open anymore. And then
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
uh, it was, and then I actually get asked that pretty often, so it kind of hits home every time.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
It's still a surreal feeling, but you actually had a great finish though to your senior year, even in the midst of trying to transfer, graduate, the school closing. I believe you took fourth. Was it fourth
Yes.
at
Yes.
okay, fourth at nationals at 285. Can you kind of talk about being one of the last people left, like on the wrestling team, on this now soon to be closed wrestling team, and competing for a national championship? I mean, taking fourth in the country at
Yeah.
285. Can you kind of talk about what that was like during that run to the national championship?
Regional started off pretty shaky. I won my first match, and then I think I let the moment that could be my last regional tournament like get to me a little bit much, and I end up dropping my semis to automatically qualify. So I had to go to the backside, and I won two matches. I went to semi-con season and third and fourth place because you have to take third to make it out. So
Right.
I actually went on a tear. On the backside, I got two pins. I felt bad because the last guy pinned. I thought he would have qualified if it wasn't for me losing. So, but at nationals, I just honestly was just enjoying the last like team trip with my guys. Honestly, we loved it. We had a 13-hour drive down there. We were just all chilling, having fun. Just we ate some Outback where we at. I want to say we're in Missouri. They cook steak a little different out there, I would say. But really just trying to be all smiles. Don't think about it too much. Just leave it all out there. As long as you got no regrets. Nothing. Whatever happens, happens. That's the way I look at it, and it happened to work out for the best.
For sure. And yes, they do cook steak a little different. I went to Omaha, Nebraska a couple
Uh huh.
years ago, and they definitely cook steak a little bit different in
Yeah.
Omaha compared to like Ohio.
It
that's
was
that's for
it,
sure.
it was sweet. I don't know. I'm used to like saltier steaks, and theirs was like sweet. It wasn't bad, but when something's new, you like taste the difference. I don't know. The meat tastes a little higher quality though out there, but
Yeah, I think it's really based off like where you're at and how the
yeah,
animals are raised and what the farmers are doing with them. Even when I've been to other parts of the country or the world with like food, everything has a very
yeah,
different taste. I think we get so used to like Pennsylvania and Ohio food tasting pretty much
yeah,
the same. Maybe, even a little bit of West Virginia, Michigan in there. But when you get to
yeah,
like Tennessee, Kentucky,
yeah.
Missouri,
Especially
Hawaii, stuff is
down
definitely
south,
done
their
different.
food definitely tastes a little different. I ordered a medium steak thinking that it would come out, medium rare. We're down south. No, it came out completely rare. It was just hot. That's it. That's the only thing. It was maybe cooked 15 seconds. It's funny because I asked them, can they cook it a little bit longer to make it medium? Brought me out the same identical looking steak. And then once I asked for well done, it was medium though, but it was pretty funny, I thought.
Interesting. That's definitely
Yeah.
interesting. But I'm sure you ate it. I'm sure wrestlers would just pound raw steak if they
Oh yeah, it was pretty good. It was still. I'm
if
not saying it wasn't good, but once I got to like the fattier parts of it is when I really started to taste that. Yeah, this thing's rare. So yeah,
yeah, no, for sure. And I understand what you mean about like enjoying the moment. I think
yeah,
when you finish up your college career and I did track and football and those last moments you're just appreciating it. And then yes, it does hit you. Like yes, your school
yeah,
closed. Yes, you're done. Yes, you're not playing football again. Yes, you're not running track again. And you're like in this surreal, like sad but elated,
yeah,
experience that it's, over. But you have one more year to go, so it's not quite over yet
yeah.
for you. We definitely wish you the very, very best of luck, and I'm going to be
Thank
cheering
you.
for you and following you. You're definitely, you definitely left a lasting, great impact on my life. That I'm always gonna keep in touch with you, Leron. So,
I will too.
well, I appreciate that. So, as we round out the episode here, though, we do a fun segment we started a couple years ago. It's called the Fast Fitty 5. It's 5 random questions that I come up with every single episode for all of our individual guests. And if you're ready to do them, they have nothing really to do with what we talked about, but they're pretty fun. You can elaborate if you want, or you can give a quick answer. It's up to you. Ron, if you're ready, though, we can go with it.
I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1. What's the better color, purple or yellow?
Purple.
Okay. Question number 2. What's the better Doritos, the original flavored or Cool Ranch?
Original.
Okay, wait, I gotta know, why did you pick original? I love Cool Ranch.
I feel you can eat more of... Hold on. Original is the red bag, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel you can eat more of the red bag than the blue bag. The blue bag eventually leaves a taste on my tongue versus the red is just cheese.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that. All right. I know you used to go there and shop when you were in Euclid, and I know you used to go when you're at NDC. So if you were going to the Beechwood Mall, what is your favorite, best store that you're going to go to?
Saks Fifth.
Okay. Number 4. If you're going to the movies, what are you ordering from the concession stand?
Nachos. And a
Just
slushie.
nachos? No popcorn?
Yeah. Nachos and a slushie.
What type? What flavor slushie?
I get it mixed, red and blue.
Really? How's that taste?
I love it. I eat a lot of ices and slushies. I'm gonna be honest. After every practice, I used to almost get one.
Every time we go to the movies, I always get like a red slushie and a large bag of popcorn. I walk in like I'm like 5 years old.
I used to love popcorn, but I don't know. I feel like they don't make it the same. I would say that.
Okay. Now, the 5th question, it's a big one. It kind of relates to wrestling, but hear me out on this. You right now at 22 years old, would you rather wrestle prime Olympic champion Kurt Angle or box prime world champion Muhammad Ali?
I'd rather wrestle.
You would take on Olympic champion Kurt Angle?
Yes. I don't want to get beat up. It's then like if you lose a wrestling match, you lose a wrestling match. If I'm just getting knocked out, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, but think about it like this. Either way, someone's going to probably knock you out. I'm sure Kurt Angle's going to throw you over his head.
If I let him throw me over my head, I don't deserve to wrestle. But see, if we're talking about fighting, his Muhammad Ali's hands and reach are just so much more superior than me. I at least know I can do something. I better be able to do something with Kurt Angle. But Muhammad Ali, I have no reason to be in there.
And for people that don't know Kurt Angle, we went back to this a little bit earlier, but if you don't know, Kurt Angle actually won an Olympic gold medal with a fractured neck. So if people want to talk about like the toughest human being ever, the dude won the heavyweight gold at the Olympics and with a broken neck, and won 2 college All-American titles back in the 90s for Clarion University. Yeah. So I know Kurt Angle's well known in the wrestling circles.
Yeah.
So, but Leron, this was a lot of fun catching up with you, man. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk and do a Fast Fitty 5 with you on here. That was very, very random this time around. But, you know, we thank you so much for being on. To all of our new listeners, please tune in next week as we have another great guest. And to all of our returning listeners, please keep tuning in. You guys are our favorites. So we appreciate you, Leron. We'll be cheering for you, from afar, and we'll definitely keep in touch. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend and tell a friend. And if you didn't like it, tell them anyways, because I bet they like it just because you didn't. This is Fitty signing off, and we'll see you next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Dubby Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.